The effects of the Neelam cyclone that hit South India in October 2012 created havoc over a wide stretch of the Tamil Nadu coast. This kind of cyclone is a natural calamity which occurs very often in the tropical areas. It is not possible to prevent cyclones, but the loss of human lives and properties can be minimized if the cyclone can be forecast reliably. These storms rising from the seas are named differently so that every cyclone can be recognized easily. Why and how these cyclones are formed and how these are named is the topic of our next segment, In Depth.
Many people lost their lives due to Hurricane Sandy that hit the east coast of the United States in October 2012. Property worth millions of dollars was destroyed during this calamity. At the same time, the prospective threat from the cyclone Neelam in India had created a scare. The cyclones and storms emanating from the oceans are truly uncontrollable natural calamities that invariably result in heavy damages. A tropical cyclone is a low-pressure phenomena that generally happens in tropical regions. A tropical cyclone is also known as typhoon or hurricane. Cyclone is an important part of the atmospheric transmission system that takes the heat from the equatorial regions to higher latitudes. If we see from the structural aspect, the tropical cyclone is a huge process moving around wind clouds, winds and roaming cyclone activities. The initial source of the cyclone's energy is massive water vapors from the warm oceans. When the vapors get condensed at high altitude and release energy, that energy provides the initial energy source for the tropical cyclone. Due to the energy received from condensation, tropical cyclones are different from the other cyclones, like the cyclones at mid-latitudes that derive energy from the existing temperature of the environment.
The cyclonic storms are low pressure areas which form in the oceans, and when the winds associated with low pressure areas are of 60 km per hour or more, then it is categorized as cyclone.
Tropical cyclones are classified on the basis of tropical pressure and storm. Tropical pressure is a structured process of clouds and roaring storm that has a designated surface transmission. At this time, the maximum wind speed is less than 62 km per hour. A tropical cyclone is also the same, but the wind speed in this case is between 62 to 117 km per hour. At this speed, it takes cyclonic shape and an eye starts forming at the center. From the satellite, this eye looks like a small, circular, cloudless center. The region around it is known as eye wall, and it is around 16 to 80 km wide. In this region, the strongest wind and roaring storm is present, so the whole process has a typical circular shape. The direction of the cyclone is decided by which hemisphere it is present in. In northern hemisphere it moves anti-clockwise, and in southern hemisphere it moves in a clockwise direction. In northern Atlantic, a tropical cyclone moving with a speed of more than 117 km per hour is called a hurricane, and in different parts of the Pacific Ocean they are called typhoons. For grading cyclones, the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale is used. It classifies tropical cyclones into 5 categories distinguished by the intensities of their sustained winds and is used for assessing the probability of flood and material damage when the cyclone hits land.
If the wind speeds are lower than that, they are categorized as deep depression, depressions and low pressure areas. And even within cyclones there are categories. When the wind speeds are from 60 to 90 km per hour, they are called cyclonic storms. From 90 to 120 km per hour, they are called severe cyclonic storm. And when the wind speeds are 120 to 220 km per hour, they are called very severe cyclonic storm. And if the associated winds are of the order of more than 220 km per hour, they are categorized as super cyclones.
Katrina, Sandy, Neelam. The names of cyclones are good to hear and easy to remember, but the destruction caused by them leaves a long trail of problems.
The names of tropical cyclones are assigned by a group of countries for an area in which the cyclones affect those countries. For the Indian Ocean, North Indian Ocean, that includes Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, these names are decided by a group of 8 countries, which includes Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Pakistan and Oman. They suggest a set of names for cyclones, and these names are then assigned one by one to each of the cyclones. So whenever a cyclone forms, we know what is the name to be assigned to that cyclone. So this is how the names to the cyclones are assigned.
In 1950, the American Meteorological Bureau started to give names to the cyclones on the basis of alphabets, and in 1953, cyclones were named after women. In 1979, the names of men were also adopted. Giving human names to cyclones and hurricanes made it easier to identify them, but their inhumane destruction is still difficult to stop. In India too, cyclones originating in Bay of Bengal and other coastal regions keep hitting the mainland. Neelam weakened this time, but its severity was enough to teach us to remain alert for such disasters. Through scientific techniques, we can now get prior information of such disasters, and the damage caused by them can be checked or limited.